Before we get started, thank you all so much for all of the support on my Hayasaka video. It's nearing 1,000 views, which is honestly insane to me. When I posted this, I thought that it wouldn't receive maybe more than 10 to 20 views, but seeing all of the support in the comments, through views and likes and even some wonderful subscribers, I realized that I wanted to make more of these videos. Your comments really spurred me forward and inspired me, and I don't think I could ever be capable of putting my gratitude into words. As a celebration of nearing 1,000 views and the newest mini-episodes coming out, I wanted to do a small dive into the similarities between Kurumada and Sara's characters. On the surface, these two don't seem to share much in common outside of being the two candidates with the highest victory rates. But in my opinion, their mini-episodes truly put them in a new light, especially when compared and contrasted with one another. Even though I'm mostly going to be talking about the mini-episodes, I will mention the base game here and there, so once again, spoilers for Your Turn to Die up to Chapter 3, Part 1b, all that jazz. But especially for the endings for Chapter 2's main game, so make sure you play through all of them. And, of course, spoilers for the mini-episode endings, especially Sara's red text ending. So for this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about passion versus drive. Though they are often paired together, passion and drive are two separate things. Let's look at Mirriam-Webster's definitions for both. For passion, the online dictionary describes it as the emotions as distinguished from reason, intense, driving or overmastering feeling or conviction, an outbreak of anger, ardent affection, a strong liking or desire for or devotion to some activity, object or concept, a sexual desire, or an object of desire or deep interest. Honestly, I feel like all of these can describe Kurumada. The anger, the conviction, the strong liking or desire, just kidding. In all seriousness, Kurumada truly does encapsulate all of the aspects of this definition. Also, note how drive is included in these definitions. Now, let's talk about some definitions of drive. According once again to Mirriam-Webster, drive can be defined as an urgent, basic, or instinctual need, a motivating physiological condition of an organism, an impelling culturally acquired concern, interest, or longing, or a dynamic quality. Sara to me reflects this less than Kurumada does passion, but there are still aspects there. Acting on an urgent need, she did that twice for Keiji in Chapter 3 alone, first being willing to sign the contract and second going to the classroom alone with Midori's ID card. A concern, interest, or longing? Sara's interest in Kendo led her indirectly to her connection with Ryoko, and her concern with Joe leads her to stand up against the women verbally harassing him, with no forethought or concern for herself or the consequences that may arise by antagonizing them. Dynamic quality? Many of the characters rally behind Sara because of her leadership, charisma, compassion, and consideration. But these are denotations, definitions that try to maintain objectivity with little to no human input. When used in everyday life, the way people distinguish these words really depends on the context. Well, I found two perspectives, whose articles will be linked down below. A blogger's discussing self-growth, and an entrepreneur's discussing business. The blogger stresses how passion manifests in linking one's goal intrinsically or to your sense of self, enjoying both the outcome and the journey to getting there. Once again, Kurumada seems to have this in spades. He enjoys not just the escape, but the chase. The fight that comes with becoming the best of the best, becoming first rate. And this is shown through his confrontation with the police officers. If there is no journey to prove one's growth, then there's no way to prove that that person is spitting more than just hot air. Kurumada wants to use his own journey to prove to himself and the rest of the world that he is the best, no doubt inspired by Kobushi's advice to seek out stronger people to challenge. To me, simply handing Kurumada a gold medal wouldn't be satisfying to him. It's the outcome that he wants, but he knows deep down that he wouldn't be deserving of it. and he feels like he is ready and capable of taking on the challenge. Meanwhile, drive is manifested by seeking out a sense of external validation, pushing oneself to be better and grow, not necessarily for the sake of oneself internally, but for the sake of one's image. To be motivated by drive is to be motivated by outcome, not by process. To me, this is where I thought the blogger seems to have a bit of a bias against drive, and why I added the entrepreneur's opinion. To them, drive is a natural result of passion, as passion alone cannot breed success. To have the drive means to be able to push yourself to success, to take an objective step back and realize what action is necessary to foster and support one's passions. Sara's seriousness, as she relates to Joe, is seen as a reflection of drive. Sara constantly pushes herself to be better than she already is, throwing herself headfirst into challenges. When the women who harassed Joe challenged her and him to a gambling game that literally has cards with small animals on them and fake money, she still takes it very seriously. Similar to Kurumada, she holds her pride in high regard, and anything, and I mean anything, can affect her self-image. In reality, even if these women won, there would be nothing of it. Sure, they could have a laugh, ask for Joe's number, all that stuff, but honestly, he still has a right to say no. He could still back down. He and Sara could literally just make a run for it, and everything would be fine. Even looking at the way that these women interact with Sara and Joe, talking about their channel and enthusiastically congratulating them on their win, it's obvious they're not as big of a threat as Sara seems to pose them as. But still, Sara isn't like that. She's ready to meet any challenge, no matter how big or small, head on. And though the results of a game will have no long-lasting real-life consequences, she still takes it seriously because of what losing or winning that card game would truly mean. Once more, it's not the card game itself, aka the process, that shapes her pride and feelings of success. It's its outcome. Heck, look at the hidden ending for Joe and Sara if the player chooses all of the red choices. Sara thinks about the results. What would have happened if she asked to date Joe? What would have happened if she voted for Joe and helped him escape via sacrifice? What would things be like? How would things change? What regrets would weigh on her heart? Now, this opens up a whole new can of worms. No one else we've seen so far has consciousness of the death game in their mini-episodes. Is this because Sara is the main character and Nankidai just wanted to throw a little something in there? Or could it be because these mini-episodes are a part of a much bigger thing? Or maybe both. I might look into that more, but for now, there's no evidence suggesting any of that, so I'll leave it alone. The point is, Sara clearly represents drive, the invisible push that is fueled by passion, represented by Kurumada. Of course, these two go hand in hand, which means Sara isn't devoid of passion and Kurumada of drive. These are complex characters who shouldn't be reduced to just one character trait. I just noticed that these two tend to lean more in one direction. But at the end of the day, they do both tend to go to extremes on their respective sides. Sara scares Ryoko during Kendo, and on top of that, scared a kid away from the card game. And Kurumada, even after winning against the champion boxer, continued to beat him until he had to go to a hospital. To them, achieving the goal is merely a baseline. Their passion and drive causes them to sometimes go overboard on what is actually necessary. Kurumada because of his passion, his anger and desire for vengeance for Kawushi, and Sara because of her drive, her need to prove a point to those women and have them leave Joe alone. They both want to prove their victory on an ideological stage, and will do what it takes to prove themselves as better, as stronger. On top of that, they both feel like they're fighting for what is just. Sara believes it isn't right for those women to be harassing Joe, and Kurumada is fighting against the unfair nature of Kawushi's battle, which had the competitor be 3 kilograms overweight. These individuals are not even fighting for themselves, but for the honor of another. and they are willing to prove themselves not through direct confrontation of the issue, though Sara does attempt that at first, but at an external activity, like a gambling game or a boxing match. The passion and drive go hand in hand, and these external activities serve as stand-ins for fighting for one's own honor and ideals, defending those they care about. Kurumada's red text after beating the champion really seals the deal for me. It reminds me of the now ending in Chapter 2's main game, and the idea of the strong overpowering the weak, though in Kurumada's case it's physical and Sara's is more mental. Regardless, it truly highlights the way that these two can think quite similarly. Of course, Sara never really shows that in the base game, but I think we have Joe to thank for that. It's just interesting to me that these two are so similar despite growing up in such antithetical circumstances. Kurumada is older than Sara, in his mid-20s, and has a tenuous relationship with law enforcement, tenuous being an understatement. Unlike Sara, his parents are not mentioned at all, and the bonds with his family don't appear too tight. And yet, both characters still have similar outlooks. They both take what they see as important, and anything related to them, very seriously. But they are also willing to be real and honest with themselves. While Kurumada has the heat and passion that can oftentimes influence him to do regrettable acts, Sara's drive and serious nature could also push people away, and her priority on external outcomes can sometimes undermine the feelings of the other person and herself. I guess at the end of the day, I just want to say that maybe Sara and Kurumada have more in common than what appears on the surface. Though they both appear so different from one another, maybe them having the highest victory rates is no mere coincidence. And maybe these characters have a lot to learn from one another about passion versus drive. Too bad Kurumada is too dead now for them to actually have that conversation. Oh, really quick before we end, I have a crack theory. So, like, Sara tells Joe she takes everything too seriously, right? So what if Your Turn to Die is just Sara playing a game with her old dolls or something, and like blowing things way too out of proportion? Like every time there's a death, she takes it really seriously, and her dad is like, Sara, stop, you're going too far. And she's like, no, I'm not, and antagonizes her dad, and that manifests in the death game, which is why Meister resembles him. And she was gonna add other friends besides Joe, like Ryoko, to the game, but after Joe dies in the main game, she's like, nope, I'm gonna take it too seriously if my friends die. So she never included Ryoko or anyone else. But everyone else in the game is just Sara's OCs that she made up based off of random people she met, like the women harassing Joe, or the men that she played against, etc. Like, those people are all just models for her OCs that she's decided to put in this death game. I mean, look, Shin even appears as a loner man in one of her games, so like maybe she modeled her Shin doll OC after him. Like, what if Your Turn to Die is just a little game that Sara made as a coping mechanism for other stuff going on in her life? Like, I mean, what if this is all just a game Sara's taking way too seriously? Talk about major protagonist syndrome. No, I'm just kidding. This is obviously a crack theory. Don't take it seriously. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm once again not expecting many views, but if you do see it and want to say something, feel free to comment. And thank you once more on all of the support for my Hayasaka video. I appreciate everything you guys do.